I never imagined that the woman who gave me life would be the same woman who took my home away. But in just 48 hours, everything I had, my room, my memories, my sense of safety, was gone. Because my own mother chose my sister over me. Where are you listening to this story from? Are you alone in your bedroom? Or maybe gathered with loved ones? Either way, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because stories like this, the heartbreaking story of a mother who expelled her own daughter from her home, deserve to be remembered, shared, and never forgotten. Families are supposed to be the one place where you feel safe, the place you can always return to, no matter how broken the world becomes. But what happens when the very people meant to protect you become the ones who push you out? This is the story of a woman who believed she still had a home, until her mother looked her in the eyes and gave her 48 hours to leave it forever. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because her sister was chosen instead. What followed was not just the loss of a house, but the collapse of trust, family, and everything she thought love was supposed to mean. It began on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of unremarkable day that should have blended quietly into all the others. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone while eating leftover pasta, when my mother walked in wearing that expression I had learned to fear over the years. Her jaw was set, her eyes avoided mine, and her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her cardigan. I knew something was coming, but I convinced myself it would just be another lecture about my career choices or another passive-aggressive comment about my life. I was 27 years old and still living at home, something that had become a source of quiet shame for me, but also a practical necessity. After losing my job during the pandemic, I had moved back into my childhood bedroom, promising myself it would be temporary. 2 years had passed. I had been freelancing, saving slowly, contributing to groceries and utilities when I could. My mother had never complained outright. There were always small remarks, little digs that made me feel like a burden, but never a direct demand that I leave. That day, she sat across from me and folded her hands on the table. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed, as though she had practiced this conversation in front of a mirror. She told me my sister, Vanessa, was getting divorced, that she needed a place to stay, that she was coming home with her 2 children, and they would need space. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and said the words that shattered everything I believed about family. I had 48 hours to pack my things and find somewhere else to go. At first, I laughed, a nervous, disbelieving sound that hung between us. I thought she was joking, or exaggerating, or testing me. But her face remained stone still, and the silence confirmed what I didn't want to accept. She was serious. My mother was choosing my sister over me, and she expected me to accept it without question. I asked why it had to be me, why Vanessa couldn't stay somewhere else temporarily, with friends or other family. My mother's answer was simple and devastating. Vanessa had children. Vanessa needed stability. Vanessa was going through a hard time. And even though she didn't say it directly, the message was clear. I mattered less. I was single, childless, more expendable. My suffering was not as important as my sister's. The next 48 hours dissolved into a blur of emotion I still can't fully untangle. There was anger, hot and violent, that made me want to scream. There was grief for the mother I thought I had, and the family I believed would always catch me when I fell. There was fear, cold and paralyzing, about where I would go and how I would survive. And beneath it all was a sadness so deep it felt like drowning. I called friends, distant relatives, anyone who might have a couch I could sleep on. Most were sympathetic but unable to help. A few offered a week here or there, nothing permanent. I scrolled through rental listings, knowing I didn't have enough for a deposit and first month's rent. Every corner of my childhood home now felt like it was closing in on me, quietly erasing my place in it. My sister arrived on the second day in a rented moving truck, her kids in the back seat. She looked exhausted and fragile, and part of me wanted to comfort her. But the part of me being displaced could only feel resentment. She hugged our mother on the driveway. They went inside together, whispering. No one came to help me pack. No one asked if I was okay. I was invisible in my own home. I packed my life into garbage bags and suitcases. Every item carried memory. Books from childhood, clothes from interviews and first dates, photographs from birthdays and holidays when we were still a family that loved each other. I left most of it in boxes in the garage, hoping I might return one day, though I suspected it would all end up in the trash. On the morning I left, my mother made coffee as if it were any ordinary day. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She simply told me this was for the best, that someday when I had children I would understand. The cruelty of that sentence stole my breath. She was telling me my worth was conditional, that I would only matter once I became something she respected. I loaded my car and drove away from the only home I had ever known. I didn't know where I was going. I had one friend's couch for a week. Beyond that, nothing. I felt untethered, like a boat cut loose from its anchor. The first weeks were brutal. I drifted between couches and cheap motels. My savings disappeared. I worked late into the night, because exhaustion was better than thinking. In silence, I had to face the truth. My mother had chosen convenience over compassion. My sister had accepted it. My family had decided I was disposable. My mother called every day at first. Cheerful messages, guilt-soaked voicemails. Never an apology. Eventually the calls stopped. My sister never reached out. Months passed. Slowly, painfully, I rebuilt. I found a small studio apartment. I worked constantly. I went to therapy. And there I finally saw the truth. This was never about space. It was about being second best. Vanessa had always been the golden child. She followed the script. Marriage, kids, approval. I didn't. And when forced to choose, my mother chose the daughter who validated her life. Understanding didn't erase the pain, but it freed me from self-blame. 3 years later, I have a life no one can take from me. A home, a career, chosen family. I still remember that Tuesday. It still aches, but it no longer defines me. I am not the daughter who was discarded. I am the woman who survived, and that is enough. After I drove away that morning, the house disappeared behind me, but the weight of what had happened stayed in my chest. Every mile felt heavier than the last. The streets I had known since childhood blurred past my windows, and with them went the last traces of who I used to be. I kept waiting for my phone to ring, for my mother to call me back, to tell me she had made a mistake, to say she wanted me home. It never did. That silence hurt more than the eviction itself. It was the final confirmation that I was no longer a priority in her world. At my friend's apartment, I slept on a narrow couch with my suitcase beside me like a guard dog. I lay awake at night listening to unfamiliar sounds, realizing that for the first time in my life, I was truly alone. There was no childhood bedroom waiting for me anymore. No place where I was guaranteed to belong. And yet, in that loneliness, something quiet began to grow. Each small step forward, finding work, saving a little money, unlocking the door to my own tiny studio for the first time, felt like reclaiming pieces of myself that had been taken away. I wasn't just surviving. I was proving day by day that I did not need their permission to exist, to matter, or to build a future. The past still whispers sometimes, but it no longer controls me.